recorded this video like 5 times already. This is kind of difficult to talk about. There's so many little things that can change and you want to talk about, but I'm doing my best to keep this clear and concise. What's going on, guys? My name is Rounded Tic Tac, and this is going to be my starter druid build, druid build that I plan on using on day 1, which is in, I don't have a watch on, about 7 hours. I'm really excited for this build for a number of reasons. Is A, I usually like to play tank classes, and B, if I can't play a tank or don't want to play a tank, my other go-to is damage over time. And funny enough, apparently the poison class, besides maybe rogue, is druid, and that's right up my alley. So I really wanted to run this build. I was unlucky enough to not get into any of the extra, time that a bunch of people got to play. I'm sure you've seen it all over your social media, just like me. But all of those videos, I have not seen a single person run this shred druid build. Not one, not a single person. So I want to be that person. If this playstyle is something that you like, then this is the channel for you. If you guys want to see me do this live, I'll be live at twitch.tv/roundedtictac today at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We would love to have you and to see you there, talk about all things Diablo. Now, what are we doing in this build? The idea is be a wolf, poison everything. There are some things that are going to change here and there, and we'll talk about that. But for the most part, this build is super easy to get started. All 3 core aspects are in fractured peaks, so you can literally get them in the first starting zone and have almost a complete build minus some utility stuff along the way. We're not going to talk about everything. We're just going to talk about some starting stuff that you might want to grab. The utility and defensive perks, there are some best in slots, but seriously, just get what you have that drops for you. There's no reason to actually min-max everything for a starter build. Depending on what drops for you in Diablo 4 is basically what you're going to use. I would love to run this build into the end game. That's the goal. Let's see if it's doable. This is the Poison Druid build. Let's jump into it. As I said at the start, the aspects are super easy to get. They're really not hard at all, but let's go over them real quick. We have Night Howler's aspect. This allows us to gain 10% critical strike chance, which is actually kind of high for critical strike chance. I believe the max number you can get on gear at max level is 18%. So an extra 10 is actually kind of huge. This is a fantastic thing, and it's in fractured peaks. Then down here, we have aspect of the unsatiated. This needs to be talked about because we may be changing out a skill based on my experience during the service slam, but we'll talk about that when we get to the skills. So what this does is it helps you generate more spirit, and your next werewolf attack, which if you look at the skill tree right now, we don't have, does an increased 30% damage. But again, we'll talk about that in just a minute. Then down here, we have critical strikes which shred deal 20 to 30% lightning damage to surrounding enemies. This will help with your AoE clear because the first and second hit of shred are not AoE. At least I don't think they are, but the third one definitely is. It's been a while since I played. Then down here, we have aspect of the blurred beast. This is not necessary for this build. This is just a bonus. If you happen to have it drop, fantastic. These 3 are the main 3 you want for a shred build, minus some utility and defensive perks, of course. The only issue with this is during the first beta, I couldn't get this to work. And if you guys take a look at shred, the other side of the tree allows you to dash on the first and second hits, or the second and third hits rather. But this says while dashing. Now, I don't know if this dashing is linked to that specific thing. If it is, it doesn't really make too much sense because then you lose out on the poison damage from shred, which means then for poison damage, you need to go into claw, and lightning or storm strike is probably druid's best ability. So losing out on lightning strike, storm strike, sorry, for claw to do that, not sure if that's worth it. Again, I haven't had any hands-on time to test this stuff, but if this doesn't work like that, then this is probably one of your better in slots for this kind of build. I'm gonna have to figure it out. It might just be pressing spacebar. I'm not sure 100%. Then down here for the spirit boons, real easy. We want extra spirit. We want critical strike chance from eagle. We want critical strike damage from eagle. Then we have critical strike chance, have a 20% chance to reset your companion skills. We are using Vine Creeper for AoE and more poison damage, and Lockdown with Immobilize. And then down here, we're taking Overload. We want Overload to go into Stormclaw's aspect to just have a better chance of doing more AoE and bonus damage. Again, I don't know if Poison is going to be the end-all be-all Druid build. I highly doubt it will. I think personally Lightning, Storm, Werewolf, Druid is the endgame Werewolf build, but this isn't an endgame guide. This is a starter guide. And this guide, this build, will definitely get you to that endgame. Let's get into the skill trees. Now we talked about it a little bit. We're using Storm Strike here because it's an incredible ability. It does AoE, it does damage reduction, it does vulnerable damage, makes them vulnerable. It's really strong, fantastic ability all around. You're going to be in melee range anyway using Shred, so this is good to have. Then Shred is going to be our main damage dealer, and we're going to take that into Raging Shred for the poison affliction. Then over here, this is important. This really helps with your spirit generation because you're going to be spamming Shred so much that you're going to be constantly running out of spirit. This does help, allowing maybe one hit from Storm Strike to allow you to shred one more time instead of 2 to 3. Then over here, we're going to do this, which grants us 15% more damage on Wild Impulses. Then over here, we have Predatory Instincts, critical strike chance against close enemies, increased by another 6%. And then movement speed on digit grade gate. This is to help with survivability because we don't really have much in the sense of like a movement skill, but we're going to talk about one thing that may be changed out in the build in just a second. Speaking of survivability, we're going Blood Howl. This heals us for 23.5%. I've only put 3 points into here, and then also to generate 20% more spirit. Since we're going Wild Impulses, spirit consumption might become a problem, and being able to constantly use Shred is more important than 4 seconds of increased attack speed. In my opinion, we may change this down the line. Down here, we are using Poison Creeper. This thing does so much damage. We'll clear out an entire pack of enemies at World Tier 2, except for the elites. Absolutely ridiculous. It also immobilizes them, and it also gets more poison damage by 3 seconds if you take this perk right here. Now on to one of the iffy perks. Trample versus Rabies. Let me explain the playstyle that I experienced with these two skills. The reason we're using Trample is twofold. Number one, it's really Druid's only movement ability instead of like a straight up defensive ability. And not the most recent patch, but 2 patches ago, this was buffed to do a ridiculous amount of damage. Now, we're not spec'd into this, but the base numbers are kind of insane. We're at almost 100% damage here and 150% damage here. There's a lot of damage here, and plus it grants us spirit and a movement skill. That is why this is here. I don't know if we're going to be keeping this, but for leveling and to when you're fighting new encounters for the first time, having a movement skill is probably going to feel really, really good. If that's not the case and you don't like this or this isn't working out for you, Rabies. Let me talk about Rabies real quick. I played in both, not the Service Land, but both 2 betas on World Tier 2. I never put it down to World Tier 1. Not a single time. In the Service Slam, I did. And in the Service Slam, I tried Rabies again. At World Tier 1, with unfarmed gear, Rabies was insane. I'm telling you that you could go into a dungeon, fight one enemy, and chain that enemy throughout the entire dungeon, and it will kill all of the trash mobs in the dungeon from literally one skill if you do it right. On World Tier 1, this ability felt fantastic. On World Tier 2, it didn't feel that great. But with being able to properly farm and properly gear and having more skill points to be able to do more things like, you know, stuff like down here and slow them and other things like that, this might be viable. I'm going to be testing that out. So keep that in mind. Plus, this also works with the aspect, this would be the other werewolf skill that this talks about. So that is the idea here. We're taking 9 points down here. This is all extra damage to poison, slow on poison, and critical strike chance, base damage as poison. We want all of these things. So keep that in mind. Rabies might be good. Rabies is good if you're playing on World Tier 1. If you're playing on World Tier 2 and you need a little more survivability, probably take Trample. And if you don't want to take Trample, take a defensive skill. It'll help you stay alive. Down here, we are taking Grizzly Rage only if you have the aspect, the legendary aspect that turns Grizzly Rage into a werewolf skill. That is a legendary aspect. I don't think it drops from anywhere. It is a random drop. If you get that, spec into this. If you do not have that, then honestly, just fill out your skill tree. Maybe take Petrify for CC oh shit moments. This could be really good. 50% extra critical strike damage. This, in fact, was just buffed. I believe it lasts for 7.2 seconds now of extra critical strike damage. This might be the way to go. Again, more survivability. This got buffed as well, but when I used this, it felt terrible. Maybe with better gear, it'll be a little better, but this felt terrible. Then the last thing, Quick Shift. When shape-shifting skill transforms you into a different form, it deals 15% increased damage. This is a constant for us because we are using Storm Strike, which puts us in human form, and then we're using Shred, which turns us back into a werewolf. So we're constantly having that bonus 15% damage, and then every 6 werewolf skill critically strikes and deals 60% increased damage. Now, that is the gist of the build. Really easy to farm, really easy to get to. I just want to talk about the Paragon board real quick and what you should be able to, or what you should be looking to get in the first one, in my opinion, but I'm not going to go any further than that. What I've recently found out are that runes, or glyphs rather, not runes, glyphs are random drops. They are not based on your character. So hypothetically, at least this is what I saw. I don't know for a fact. If you're playing Druid, you can get a Sorcerer, a Rogue, a Barbarian glyph, and that would be completely useless to you. It did seem like they dropped at a decent rate, but we're going to skip that for now. Maybe in the finished guide, we'll talk about them. Well, in fact, in the finished guide, we will talk about them. But the first node I want to grab here for the legendary perk, if you guys don't know, you click on this. This allows you to choose a legendary perk, and we're doing this one. While there are 3 or more poison enemies near you, you deal 45% increased damage. Guess what? Shred hits 3 enemies. So you're constantly gonna have an increase of 45% bonus damage at all times. And then in this tree alone, you're doing more poison damage to poison, poison to damage, you know, stuff like that. Again, this is just the starter build. I will have links down below to this build. I will have links down below to the map where these aspects are. In fact, we'll talk about them right now. As you can see, they are all in Fractured Peaks. There they are, circled. Go get them. They're easy to get. Nothing is too difficult here. If you're having a hard time, you're playing solo, just, you know, drop it down to World Tier 1 real quick and kill the boss. If you guys want to come hang out at twitch.tv/roundedtictac, I would love, absolutely love to see you guys there. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If there's anything I can do to improve on this video or anything you guys that I may have missed, let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much. Think about subscribing. See you on the next one. Tic Tac out. Bye, y'all.